This is The Toss-Up, where an expert line panel dissects the hottest stories within the world of sports. From some of the nation's strongest college programs right here in Bloomington to the games and moments that capture the world's attention, it's all right here on The Toss-Up. The countdown is over and the college basketball season is officially here. In terms of the mutual intrigue, this upcoming season for both the Indiana men's and women's teams is up there with any other. On one hand, you have one of the most accomplished players in Indiana high school basketball history coming to town in Romeo Langford. He joins a roster mixed with one of the Big Ten's best players in Juwan Morgan and a slew of characters as their supporting cast. Now, no one knows for sure exactly what the ceiling for this team is, but whatever it is, it's high. And on the women's side, well, they just lost arguably the two greatest players in program history. Tyra Buss and Amanda Cahill played together for 4 straight years and had the team running itself like a Fortune 500 company. But this year, could the team be even better without the two of them? There's certainly a case to be made. But regardless of how the season unfolds, one thing we know is certain. There's palpable buzz entering the season for both teams, and it is completely justified. Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Toss-Up. I'm your host, Michael Dugan. Joining me on the panel this week, we have a trio of IUSTV basketball beat reporters, Dan Black, Tamar Scher, and Griffin Gonzalez. Are we ready to talk IU men's and women's basketball? We got Hoosier Hysteria coming up, and then the season's right around the corner.
Let's do it.
All right, first question. Griffin, I'll start with you. I really appreciate the enthusiasm.
Yeah, no problem, buddy.
Griffin, I'll start with you. Starting with the men, what is a realistic expectation for this team this season?
I don't really think we'll know until a few weeks in the season. We really got to see how this team's going to get together, I should say, not missed. But really see how they're going to improve together, how Juwan Morgan's going to play, how Romeo's going to fit in with Archie's schemes, before we really have a good idea of how this team's going to perform. But right now, I'd say they're looking at a top 3 Big Ten favorite at least, and I think they're just going to grow from there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him as well. I don't think it's overconfident to say that they'll finish top 3, even win the Big Ten regular season title. And then in terms of the tournament, in my opinion, anything short of a Sweet 16 bid is not a failure, but just isn't living up to the expectations that this team could have, especially with the talent, both young and old, that they have. And obviously Archie Miller, we know he's a great coach, and now in his second season being able to implement the system that he has, very defensive-minded system, I think that's going to work wonders for this team, and I think they have a really solid season.
Yeah, and piggybacking off of both of you guys, I think that Archie Miller is going to bring in a great second season with these amazing recruits. It's going to be really interesting to see how they all mold together with such new faces and old returning. So it's going to be an awesome season to see.
Dan, I'll go to you on this one first. The point guard situation over the last half decade has been pretty concrete. This year, Josh Newkirk gone. Obviously, no Yogi. Newkirk took over after him. So they haven't really had an offseason of uncertainty in the point guard position in a while. What's it going to look like this year?
Well, they have a little more than a month off until they have the entire month of October after Hoosier Hysteria until that November 1st game. So they have a lot of time to decide, Archie Miller does, to decide who's going to start that first game as a starting point guard. It's really a two-man race, in my opinion. It's Devontae Green and Rob Phinisee. It's just going to be his decision on who he feels comfortable with the most after this 1 month off going into that first week. I think personally Devontae Green's at least going to start game 1, but Rob Phinisee is going to see a lot of time, and I think that ultimate decision will have to be made before they play Duke. They'll play, I think, around 8-ish games, maybe a little more than that. So it's plenty of time for Archie Miller to decide who he wants to go with for the season. But right now, I think Devontae Green gets the start, but expect Rob Phinisee to get a ton of playing time.
I'm piggybacking off what you said. I totally agree. I'm going to bring it out wide, see how they are going to shoot their three-point shots, see how they make it on the line, and really hone in onto those fundamental skills, see how they make it this season.
I think, to me, the point guard position is the most important because that's your floor general. That's the guy you're going to look to in games when it's a 5-point game going down to the final minutes. So it's very important who you pick here. And if you're asking me, I think Archie Miller is a guy who wants a guy who can control the ball and be smart with it as late. And to me, that's not Devontae Green. To me, Devontae Green more of a two-guard to me. I think he's a better late shooter guy, best guy to go to for a quick jump shot. But I think Rob Phinisee, I had the opportunity to watch him play in high school. He's the kind of guard who can just take over a game. He reminds me a lot of a Yogi Ferrell, but he has almost more of a swagger about him. He's got more length. He's got more speed. So I really do like Phinisee starting off the season, getting him that experience. Are there going to be rough patches? There's no doubt about it. We're going to see rough patches with Romeo. He's not perfect, but we're going to see rough patches. And that's something I'm really looking forward to see his growth as he's starting his first game in IU jersey.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think Devontae Green's a natural point guard. I think the only guard on this team that is a natural point guard is Rob Phinisee. But just in terms of overall experience, he's the closest thing that they have. So I think at least to start the season, to get Rob Phinisee more comfortable, to just the whole college level. I know the first couple games obviously are not against top-level competition. It's a completely different ball game once they get to Marquette in November, mid-November, then Duke, and then Big Ten play shortly after that. But I think I agree with you, obviously, with Rob Phinisee, but I think just early on we're going to see Devontae Green get the first couple of starts just to get everyone acclimated. I mean, we know that there's going to be plenty of freshmen playing, but just for right now, I think Devontae Green's going to slide in there.
Griffin, you mentioned Romeo in your answer. I think expectations for him to a lot of people are extremely high, and he's an extremely talented player. But are these expectations too high? What should we expect from Romeo this season, especially early on?
I think you should expect Romeo to do his job and hopefully expand on that a little more. You can't come into this season expecting Romeo to be the top shooter. You can't expect him to be your top player. You would like him to be. That's your ideal realization for what you want him to be. But I think a realistic expectation for Romeo is he comes in and he contributes game in and game out on a consistent basis. Whether that's 15 points a game or whether it's 35 points a game, you love to see just him be consistent because that's what we want for Romeo and for this team.
I agree with the consistency there. I think that he's going to come out and show a lot of hustle. He has a lot of hype around him right now, coming from all the IU fans around the country even. So I really think that what he's going to need to do there is hone in that energy and really focus on performing and showing us what he has. Making sure that it's a team game, that everyone is working off of him, but also I think that we're going to see some great players besides Romeo that are going to contribute to that success of the team.
I have to disagree with you. I think you have to have high expectations for Romeo Langford, and I think you had to expect him to be the best player. He wasn't the number 5 recruit in the country for no reason. There wasn't so much hype around him for no reason. Especially coming to Indiana, being an in-state guy, you had to expect him to take over from day one and be the go-to scorer, the guy that, because you look at the older guys on this team, they're not those types of players where you want to rely on them to make that big shot. They're just not those types of players. It is what it is. And that's what Romeo Langford is. He's a big shot type of guy. So I think you had to expect him to be the guy, when you're down 3, 10 seconds left, he's the guy that they're going to go to try and tie the ball game or win the ball, whatever it is. So the expectations had to be high, depending on where that level is. If you're expecting him to drop 25 a game, then that's crazy. But to think that he could be a 20 point per game scorer, I don't think is out of the realm of possibilities. I think he's that good.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about the women's team next, but first let's toss it over to Jared at the media wall. Jared, what do you got?
Thank you, Michael. While the 2018-2019 Indiana men's basketball season will officially get started Saturday with Hoosier Hysteria, Wednesday's Media Day signaled the return of basketball for the Hoosiers. IU head coach Archie Miller is officially in his second season at the helm. After a rocky season a year ago, expectations are high in Bloomington as Miller brings in one of the top recruiting classes in the nation. With names like in-state talents Romeo Langford, Rob Phinisee, and Demezi Anderson, the newcomer should have a profound impact on the rotation right away. However, it's a player coming back, returning for his senior season, that should once again do lots of damage in the Big Ten. Juwan Morgan's return to Bloomington to complete a 4-year career vaulted Indiana back into the conversation of Big Ten title contenders and pushed IU into a serious NCAA tournament threat. Morgan is the lone remaining member of a recruiting class that featured current NBA players Thomas Bryant and OG Anunoby and will look to pick up right where he left off a season ago. In what was a breakout campaign last season as a junior, Morgan started 30 games for the Hoosiers and averaged 16.5 points per game and 7.4 rebounds, shooting 57.9% from the floor. The shining moment of last year's season was a 30-point effort in the Crossroads Classic against Notre Dame in Indianapolis. Morgan's career-high performance included 14 straight points at the end of regulation and the game-winning dunk with 8.6 seconds to knock off a ranked Fighting Irish squad. Last year's season culminated in Morgan receiving the Big Ten Most Improved Player Award. During Wednesday's media day, Archie Miller harped on Juwan Morgan's leadership skills and is calling for him to make this season more about the team, using the growth he's had in the past year as a guiding factor to a team that expects to compete for the highest of stakes this season. Back to you, Michael.
Thanks, Jared. Jared making his debut on the toss-up. Good work, Jared. All right, guys, let's talk about the women's team. Dan, we'll go to you. You covered this team last year. Without Tyra and Amanda, whose greatness goes without saying, could this team be better than they were last year?
Well, that's tough. A lot of last year's success came in the second half of the season. They once Jalen Penn and Bendu Yanni and all the freshmen got started and got more comfortable in the system, it helped a lot. And obviously, the biggest help was just having Tyra and Amanda there. They were fantastic last year. I don't know if they'll be better just because so much of this talent is young. I mean, you look at Jalen Penn and Bendu Yanni, as I said, they're the two stars, and they're the two stars that are older, but they're only sophomores, so you can't expect much. Grace Berger coming in, huge recruit, but again, a freshman. So you look at those three, those are going to be the three focal points for Indiana, but they're also young, so it's going to be kind of bumpy early on, but I think they finish in the Big Ten probably around 7-8. I think they ended up similar to last season. I don't think they go on that WNIT run again, but that was insane. But I think they're right where they were last year just because they're so young.
I think it'll be interesting to see because we have two players that are coming in. They're new to the team. Brenna Wise is an incredible free throw shooter. She's going to come in hot, and I don't know how she's going to mold with the rest of the team, but it'll be really cool to see how they all work together. And with the sophomores who are going to be leading the team as well, the leadership there is going to be at its all-time high, I think.
I think you can underestimate what a championship can do for your team, whether it's a national or WNIT. What this WNIT championship did is almost reassure this team that they should have been considered for the big dance, the tournament. I think what this can do for them is it's almost like they're entering this season with a boatload of confidence already, knowing they've only lost 2 seniors. So now they're like, okay, we have our same locker room, minus two very important people, but you still get a great group of girls who are getting ready to go to work once again.
All right, you can keep this next one short. Who will the leader or leaders, if there are going to be more than one this year?
I'm going back to the point guard. You lose Tyra Buss and you have Bondu coming in on her second season. I think she can be really scary in the Big Ten this year.
I'm going to go with Kim Royster, incredible senior for the team.
Yeah, I'm also going to have to go with Kim Royster. Huge development last season, and then I expect to see it a whole lot more this season.
Now, Dan, right back to you. You didn't cover these women last year specifically, but what can we expect from Brenna Wise and Allie Patberg, the two transfers that are going to be active this year?
Yeah, well, Brenna Wise she just brings the utmost confidence. She's a great leader, great locker room presence. The team absolutely loves her. She transferred from Pitt. And then Allie Patberg is an incredible three-point shooter. She came from a great program in Notre Dame, incredible three-point shooter. So that just adds a whole nother level to the game that I think they're going to miss a ton, obviously, from Amanda and Tyra. So to have those two, obviously they're not the talent that Amanda and Tyra were, but the leadership that they have for this young team and their abilities overall on the court will help so much.
Like I said before, Brenna Wise, incredible shot from the free throw. She's going to be incredible to watch. And then, again, Pat Berg, she comes in with a hot jump shot, so it'll be really be fun to see her three-point shots or jump shots, see how she does.
Kind of going back to Pat Berg, I know we've talked about her a lot, but that's the kind of impact she can have on this team. She's coming from a team from Notre Dame who is used to a big stage, a big national environment, Final Four appearances, even a national championship last year, even though she wasn't part of the team then. She knows what a national championship team looks like, and she's going to bring that experience to practice every day with her. She was saying it today at media availability, how she knows what this environment looks like, so I think she's going to bring that kind of championship atmosphere to this Hoosier team that hasn't been experiencing that at all.
Yeah, going off of Tamar's point, Brenna Wise, the last season she played at Pitt was a 90% free throw shooter. Yeah. So that is no joke that she knocks him down from the charity stripe. Okay, we're going to toss to break real quick. But coming up after the break, we're going to play Tell Me Why, and we'll do our lightning round, so stick with us. Welcome back to the toss-up. We're talking IU men's and women's hoops. But before we continue, let's toss it to Austin Matricardi at the media wall. Austin?
Thanks, Michael. It's often said that a team reflects the personality of their coach. You see this across multiple sports with teams like the Chicago Cubs, for example. This is even more important in college sports, where the head coach serves in a more dominant role as a culture builder. To understand the Indiana women's basketball program, you need to understand the woman leading the way for the Hoosiers, Coach Teri Moren. Moren was quite the player herself. An inductee of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, Moren helped lead her alma mater Purdue to their first Big Ten championship. As a coach, she's dealt with many different teams at many different levels. She's had assistant coaching stints at Butler and Northwestern, then broke into the head coaching ranks at UIndy and Indiana State with a stint at Georgia Tech's associate head coach mixed in. Here in Bloomington, Moren has worked to build up the Hoosier program, winning over 20 games in each of the past 3 seasons. She has instilled a brand of hard work and high expectations for the Cream and Crimson by demanding the best out of her players and focusing on the fundamentals. Those pillars will have to be enough to hold up a Hoosier squad that will be without program legends Tyra Buss and Amanda Cahill, who both graduated in 2018. Back to you, Michael.
Thanks, Austin. Jacket game on point as it always is. All right, guys, we're going to play Tell Me Why. Rules are simple. I'm going to give you a statement. You pick a side and you tell me why. Really creative name. Griffin, I'll start with you. Tell me why the men's team does or does not make the big dance this year.
They do, and because they remind me a lot of the 2011-2012 team, the team that beat Kentucky, where they had really great freshmen coming in like a Cody Zeller, but they also had a great mix of sophomores and juniors who were continuing to grow in their game and made big strides that year.
Completely agree. Exactly what you said. I think they have some amazing recruits that are going to show us what they got.
Yeah, they have the perfect combination of young and old with just great talent all together. And Archie Miller, I think, is going to make a huge next step in year 2 to make the tournament.
Same question, different team. Yes or no, the women's team makes the tournament. Tell me why.
They do not make the NCAA tournament just because I think they're too young. They have talent, but I just think they're too young right now, and I think they're just going to start the season way too slow for them to be able to get some traction and pick it up in the second half.
I'm going to be optimistic. I think that they're going to surprise us, come in with those 2 transfers, those incredible freshmen stepping up into that sophomore leadership position, the senior leader. I think they're going to do it.
I'm going to agree with tomorrow on this one. I'm going to go yes. I do think they have a lot of young people, like Ben said, but I do think that youth can almost help a team. I think they're a lot stronger than what they were last year. I think the freshmen last year are really going to show that they made a lot of strong improvements. Not to mention, transfers to a program can really lift you up in ways that are exponential. So it should be fun to see.
All right, instead of tell me why, this one is going to be tell me who. Griffin, tell me who is going to be the most valuable player on the men's team.
Oh, man, I'm going Romeo Langford. I feel like that's the easiest question you've asked today. I mean, he's just going to bring a whole new level of excitement to this Indiana program off the court. It's going to be a whole new story of what he's going to do on it.
And I'm completely agreeing with you on that point as well. I got to say Romeo, with that great fan base that's going to come from him as well as the team, hustle together.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the easy answer is Romeo, but I really like Justin Smith, especially as a breakout star this year. Only played around 15 minutes last year. I think he increased that to, around 25 or so, somewhere between 25 and 30, which increases his points. He only averaged around 5 or 6 last year. I think we see that at least doubled, and he's going to have a lot of opportunities to do so with a lot of the focus on Romeo. So I expect a big season from him this season.
No Juwan Morgan there. Interesting. Dan, now let's go to the women's team. You know this team as well as anyone. The MVP of the women's team is going to be who?
MVP, it's got to be Jalen Penn. She's from what I saw last season, she's just so dominant. And she started out the season last year kind of passive, but as she got more comfortable, she started getting more aggressive, and you finally got to see that talent, what made her so special coming out of high school. And I think she just builds on that in season 2 and is absolutely incredible.
I'm going to go with Kim Royster. I think that she's going to bring a great senior leadership to this team this year, and she's really going to come out strong.
I'm going to agree. I'm going to go JP as well. Coach was talking in practice today. She says she has completely changed her body in the weight room this summer. She's a lot bigger, a lot stronger, a lot faster. And I think that's going to show from game 1 all season long. I think she's ready to fill the void that's going to be left by Buss.
All right, last question. Which team goes further this season?
Men's team.
No question?
No. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to say the men's team.
Griffin?
I'm going to say the men's team as well.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Devil's advocate, give me a case that the women's team goes further.
I think the case is for the women's team, either the men's team does not perform how we want them to, and the mix isn't there between Romeo and the older guys, and maybe it doesn't work out. Romeo tears his ACL. That's the other reason that could happen. But I also think the women's team is ready to surprise. I think there's a lot of momentum behind that program, and, the coach was talking today about how she feels the program is turning a page and really seeing some new light.
All right, guys. Well, it's the end of the show. It's time for last word. Griffin, we'll keep with the hot hand here. What is your last word on the upcoming season for both of these teams?
I'm going to go emerge. I think we've kept looking back in the past for these two programs, and now I think it's time to look for a new future, and I think that's what you're going to see for the first year for both these programs.
I'm going to say optimistic, very ready to see the women's team succeed, and then see those freshmen come in for both teams this season.
Yeah, I was going to use the word future because now these teams are so much more ready for the future of both, Indiana men's and women's basketball with the talent they have that's so young. Plenty to expect from this season and going forward.
I agree with all of you. I think the ceiling for both of these teams is extremely high, but we all know that realistic expectations are different than ceilings. All right, well, that does it for the show this week. Be sure to continue the discussion on our Twitter page at IUSTV Sports and on Facebook at IUSTV Sports. You can always give any suggestions for the show and ask any questions you may have. Toss it up. Find out if we'll catch it. We'll see you next time.